Hello and welcome to MINYIP. My name is Blake. I'm your host for our very first SuperCoach Racing Round 1 show, and I'm joined by Clinton. How are you, Clinton?
I'm excellent, Blake. We recorded FPL last night. We're on to SuperCoach Racing, another format that we're going to talk about, and I'm looking forward to watching the races tomorrow with Stable.
Yeah, sounds good. We've been covering FPL for the last 6 game weeks, and it's been good. We've been building up our social media platforms. We're on YouTube, we're on Apple and Spotify podcasts. So however you're listening to us today. So make sure you follow us on Instagram, just search for MINYIP, and same for TikTok as well. We're big on TikTok. We've been posting on there for the last week. I'm on Twitter as well. It's at Blake Young and at Dasher Young for your Twitter followers there. And we'll be starting our Patreon channel next week as well. So some exciting things happening in our fantasy sports community. So make sure you like and comment and subscribe to our social media platforms and on our channel so we can get some feedback from you and discuss your fantasy teams for the upcoming game weeks. So that'll be good.
All feedback to you, Blake. You love the feedback. So any queries, just make sure you send it to Blake.
Yeah, that's right. Hit up Clinton on Twitter. That'll be good. So for a start, if you're new to the game, make sure you join now. So you go to supercoach.heraldsun.com.au/racing and you can join up today and join our league. We'll discuss our league code shortly, but we'll just go over some basic rules to start off so that if you're new to the game or you're returning, there's a few rule changes. So we'll just go over that quickly. The game week does start round 1 this Saturday, October the 2nd. There's 8 rounds. The lockout time is 11:50 a.m. before race 1 starts, and you can't make any changes after that race 1 starts. So you can't, after 4 races, even if there's a late scratching, you can't make any changes. So yeah, so make sure you make your changes to any stables. Check out the morning fields if you can see. Just make sure your horse isn't scratched tomorrow morning before the races start. So yeah, 11:50 tomorrow. Each round, there's a prize that the Herald Sun are putting up of $500. If you're a subscriber to SuperCoach Plus, that doubles. So $1,000 to the winner there. And the overall winner after 8 rounds wins $10,000. So hopefully we'll be close to that prize, Clinton, going forward.
Absolutely, Blake. I'll be gunning for the top. And yeah, as you just mentioned, make sure you may finalise your team on Friday, like we're doing right now, but then make sure in the morning you check late because there could be some late scratching, especially with some rain around.
Yep. So after the round's completed, you can make unlimited trades in between the rounds. So you don't have to worry about future planning or anything like that. You can unlimited trades between rounds. You select 8 horses and 1 jockey each round, but only 7 of the horses' scores will count. So the least scoring horse will drop out of your stable and only 7 will count. You have a budget to select your stable. So you have 1.8 million to select between your horses. This goes away pretty quickly by the time you select a couple of high valued horses. The horses' values are already predetermined and they will change based on their race results if they finish in the top 2 or finish in the least 2, which I'll discuss shortly. The horses value between 50,000 and 500,000. So yeah, you got to build up your stable using that allocated value. Any other basic rules there, Clint?
Yeah, all self-explanatory. So I'm sure everyone's excited to start looking at the fields.
Yeah. So the way scoring works, so you get points based on the horses get points based on their performance. In Group 1 races, the most points you can win is 40, and then it goes down in your placings. So the top 10 in each race gets points. So that's pretty important when you consider the amount of horses in each race. So if let's say there's 8 horses in a Group 1 race, you're guaranteed a minimum of 8 points. So if you're watching this on YouTube, the point system is up there now. But yeah, Group 2 is the most you can win, 32. Group 3 is 24. And in a listed race, the most points you can win is 18. So it's important to look at what grading of race the horses in. That way you can almost sort of predetermine and predict how many points your horse is going to win for the week.
I think it's worthwhile mentioning, Blake. I think this is the exciting part of it. You can choose certain horses that you might like personally, but depends on what race they're in. Depends how many horses in the field. So this is where it becomes really, in some way, mathematical. It's about trying to solve the puzzle and trying to fit in the best quality horses as you can to try and maximize the points. Because if you just choose certain horses that you like, no matter what, they may not be worth a lot of points in that particular race. And yeah, so there's lots of different things to consider. And I guess as a person who maybe isn't following the races every day, I think from my point of view, the study that I've done, it's all about trying to look at it from a big picture, not focusing on any particular horses, and just make sure I can see the value that is being represented in certain races.
Yeah, I guess this is probably why we just love our fantasy sports, trying to maximize our team's value rather than looking at horse odds or anything like that. But yeah, it's how we get engaged in sports, and we love it. So jockeys as well. So you select one jockey per round. They get 3 to 1 each race, depending on their finishing position. So if you finish in first, they get 3 points, second 2, and third only 1. So they've got to finish in the top 3. And as I mentioned, the value changes of the horses after each round. In Group 1 races, they go up by 50,000 if they finish first, 25 in second, and then if they finish second last or last, they drop in value. So you really don't want the highly price selection, such as Very Elegant or Incentivized, for example, finishing the bottom 2, because then that's where you'll lose your value. But hopefully none of that will happen. Group 2s, they go up by 25 if they win. Group 3s, they go up by 25 if they win as well. And the groups and listed rate, the handicaps and listed races, they don't change in value after each round. So that's probably something to consider as well if you're looking at those horses for your stable this round. And let's go across now to some races. But before we do that, Clinton, we'll just quickly tell everyone our league code. So this is where we want everyone to get involved. We've already got 20 people signed up to our league already. We're hoping to get up to 50 before 11:50 tomorrow. So we want as many people involved in our community as possible. Just like our soccer, we've nearly got 50 in that. We want as many people involved in our community as possible, commenting and subscribing to our channel. So make sure you get involved. Our league code, once you've joined up, you just enter in 592936. So that's there, Clinton. If you send it through to your mates yet, if you haven't, you better do it very quick.
We'll be doing it today, Blake, for sure.
Very good. Let's look at the races now for round 1. So if you're looking at this, we've got the point system in the middle of the screen again, just as a reminder, because it is important to consider how many runners are in each field. At Randwick, we've got race 1 is a handicap race of 14 runners. Race 2 is a Group 3 with 12 runners. Race 3, Group 3, is at 14 runners again. The important ones to consider, I think, are the ones with not many horses in it. So race 5, 6, you've got 2 Group 2 races at Randwick, and there's only 7 and 8 horses in those races respectively. So there are probably some big races there to consider because there's guaranteed points. With the Group 1 races at Randwick, they're big fields. So it's going to be quite tough to pick winners and get in the point system for that one. But based on the odds, we'll see how we go with picking our stable as 15, 17 and 17 horses in those big races at Randwick. And they finish off the day there with a handicap race with 11 runners. Races at Flemington. Again, I'll just quickly go through that. The runners in each race for our listeners. So race 1, handicap race, 11 runners. Race 2, handicap race, 12 runners. It's a Race 3 is a Group 2 race with 15 runners, so a big field there. Race 6 is a big race as well with another 17 runners, so some couple of big fields there. Race 4 and 5 is Group 2s as well. So got 4 Group 2 races in a row there at Flemington, followed off by a race 7, your big Group 1 race, which will be considering a fair few horses from that race with 10 runners. Race 8, Group 3 with 18 runners, and biggest field of the day so far, providing there's no scratchings. And race 9 is a handicap race to finish off the day with 14 runners. So I got through that as quick as I could for the listeners there, Clint.
Bit of a tongue twister, but no, you did a good job,
Yeah.
Blake. So yeah, I think obviously it's always worthwhile looking at the Group 1s first, looking at the number of runners, but then the odds, which we'll go to in a sec. But lots of things to consider, and that's a good overview, so I can see which races you want to target. And I immediately go straight to Group 1s and then Group 2s in that order. So then you can work out your stable from that way instead of going through every single race. So Group 1s, there's obviously some tough races at Randwick, whereas the Turnbull at Flemington, it's going to could be a match race, and as we may see soon, I think we're going to have the top 2 runners there.
Yes, like you said, you look at the Group 1 races first because they're worth the most points, and automatically your eye gets drawn to the race 7 at Flemington is the Group 1 with only 10 runners, and we'll look at that now. So race 7 at Flemington, only 10 runners currently, and the favourite currently is Very Elegant at currently odds of $2.30, but the horse's value is $500K, so quite an expensive purchase there. Will you be looking at Very Elegant there, Clinton?
Yeah, I think when you consider, yes, my dog's barking in the background. Yeah, when you consider there's only 10 runners, and as I said, there's 2 pretty short priced favourites there, I think Incentivise is a horse that you must have at its odds and value. And then with Very Elegant being the superstar that it is, compared to the other Group 1s that we'll see, I think it's justified paying up for Very Elegant because you're almost guaranteed. You'd like to think you're guaranteed a top 2 finish, maybe top 3, but there's points there to be had. So I'll be getting both of them. I don't normally like to get 2 in the 1 race unless they're cheap horses, but in this case, compared to other Group 1s, I am leaning the way of having both of them.
Yeah, Incentivise at that price of $200K is in 49% of teams, and Very Elegant's in 29%. They're the most owned horses at this stage going into tomorrow's races. We'll look now at race 7 at Randwick, which is the first Group 1 there with 15 runners currently. And you have a go at me sometimes about my soccer player pronunciations. Yeah. So this could be even worse with some of these horses' names, but we'll see how we go. So Startantes is 200K and currently the favourite for this Group 1 at Randwick. But you're currently considering another starter in this race, aren't you, Clint?
Yeah, obviously in this race, it's a pretty even match with those top 3 favourites, and I've gone the way with 4 moves ahead. It's not any particular reason. As I've said already, I don't study the form guide and watch every race they've ever had or anything like that. But I just think I'm just going a bit different there, and because it's so evenly matched, I'm going with a different horse there. And when it comes to that, just go your own way, and I've decided to go with 4 moves ahead.
Yeah, 4 moves ahead is currently more owned by more stables at the moment than Startantes, which is surprising. But I think that was due to the fact that Startantes was a late addition to the game. It was only added over the last day or 2. So I think that might have something to do with it. Something to consider there is some cheaper horses in this race 7 at Randwick. You got Fangirl, 75K, Von Trapp, 75K, and Stray is also 75K. They're at the sort of middle price odds, so $14, $15, and $23 to win respectively. I personally have got Fangirl just as it's good value for my stable at the moment, so I can afford a couple of other bigger hitting price horses. So it's just some cheaper options for you to consider there with the big race.
what I will say there, Blake, it's funny there's a horse called Von Trapp, because in that instance, these races, when they're cheaply priced, it is a Group 1, and people think, oh, it's a Group 1, it's cheap, just chuck it in. But if the horse comes 10th or worse, you don't get much points for that. So it can be a trap to chase those horses, but all depends how you want to structure your stable. But the other part, which is different this year, is you choose 8 horses and only 7 get played. So it is justifiable to choose one of those horses, but then if there is a very late scratching, etc., yeah, you could be leaving yourself a bit short with points. But all depends what you do with your stable and the balance of it. And I understand why people would choose one of those cheap horses, but then in such an even field, they'd want to probably get hopefully in the top 6 to get the points to justify it. So it all depends on the rest of your stable, but it's worth considering how everyone plays it differently. So I personally haven't gone with one of those horses.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a fangirl, so that's all right. Race 8 and race 9 at Randwick are also the other Group 1s. Look at race 8 now, with 17 runners currently. Some big horse names in here that ring a bell. You got Riadini at $4.80 and valued at $275. So quite a cheaper option there compared to some of the other Group 1 horses. It's quite popularly owned. It's the 3rd most owned horse at the moment. It's in 20% of stables. And you've jumped on board as well there, Clint, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. I personally like to have a race or a horse in each of the Group 1s. I like trying to maximise and trying to get those 40 pointers, and at its value, yeah, I've chucked it in. So I haven't thought too much about it, and I think it's been running pretty well recently.
Yeah, I personally like for just some reason, these horses ring a bell from must have been last SuperCoach season. Hungry Heart at $8.50 and Dalasan there $13. I think these 2 races in particular for the Group 1s are quite open races. And we go across to race 9 now, where the favourite's currently at $6 in Montefilia, and is paying a 325k value. This will be a quite interesting race, which will divide a lot of stable owners, which I think you've gone with Zayrick.
I have, as I said, and that's purely because I like choosing, as I said, a horse in each of the Group 1s. But I'm just looking at my stable now, which we'll get to later, and it's probably justifiable to try and change that. You mentioned a race before, race 5 at Randwick. There's only, I think, 7 runners.
Yeah.
There's a horse who's the second favourite. It's worth the same as Zayrick, and I think I'll have to give that a good consideration, because although I like to have a horse in each of the Group 1s, it's probably smarter to choose, like I just mentioned, that horse, the second favourite in race 5, because it's Group 2, only 7 runners, and Zayrick would need to finish in the top 3 to justify it. But I have to ultimately decide which way I go, and at this stage, as I said, I'll choose a horse in each of the Group 1s, so that's the way I've gone so far. It's a bit of a roughie, I know, but normally choose the top couple of favourites, but that's one horse I've just thrown in there because I think it's got a good chance.
Yeah, if you could find an extra 50k somewhere, you could go up to Entanti, but there's not too much, probably even difference with that being a wide open race. So we've covered each of the Group 1s so far. There's only 4 Group 1s. Now, if you're watching this, visually it's a bit different. We'll just cover some key horses now. So we'll cover some key horses from Group 2s, Group 3s, and handicap races. I've personally spent up the big bucks for Think It Over, who's cost 450k. He's probably the best favourite of the day. He's at $1.80 in a 7-horse field. So he's not actually that popularly owned, just because his value is at 450k in a Group 2. Masked Crusaders in a similar boat, short odds but high value. Race 6 at Randwick, and with 8 horses in that field. A lot of stables are owning Elusive Express because it's 125k at $3 a favourite in race 3 at Flemington with 15 horses in the field. So that's a quite popularly owned horse there, but I don't like the fact that there's so many horses in it. There's 15, so hopefully gets the win with 125k. As I said, popularly owned. It's the 5th most owned horse. Will you be getting Elusive Express there, Clinton?
Yeah, I'm heading that way. Yeah, I like its value. Yeah, it's one of those horses I've chosen as one of my 8th and 9th horses. I'm just trying to juggle which way the best way to go. And I know you've gone with Think It Over, but I just personally don't like spending too much money on a Group 2 horse, and which probably rules out those top 2 for me. And yeah, the horse there, I'm not sure how you say it. You can, is it JOCKEYS or how you pronounce it? But that's the horse I was referring to before. So it's in the same race as Think It Over. It's 2nd favourite, and it's only worth 200. So that's all depends on stable balance, if you want to call it that. And that's the way I'm probably might change to late. And yeah, as you look across, there's a lot of horses there that are with nice odds, but it all depends on their value and how you juggle that into your stable. So
yeah, there's it's quite interesting comparison how people approach their strategy, whether they want to spend big value. It's probably good that we're both on this show because we've gone quite opposite approaches. I think we've only got a couple of horses that are the same. So it's good to get a different perspective of teams. I've seen a fair few teams on Twitter currently that are looking very, very similar, but it's good to get a different approach and perspective. Another horse on that list there that's popularly owned is Ingratiating. Please call me out on my pronunciations.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, we'll see how we go. Ingratiating 200k. It's at $3.80 and currently the 4th most owned horse. So yeah, probably presents good value there as well.
I personally have gone for a different horse in that race, the same value. So once again, it all depends on what you prefer, and sometimes just looking purely at, so not the horse's runs and who's been trained the best, etc. Just looking at purely the odds of the horses and the price. If it's a close call, that's where everyone goes their own way. So I've actually gone with General Bow in the same race.
Yeah, we definitely don't claim to be horse experts, so don't take our selections as advice on the races. So the Group 3s and listed handicap races now, I personally have not, all my horses are from Group 1s and Group 2s, but I believe a lot of people will be getting Coolangatta, who is 100k and at $2 to win. It's Group 3 race 2 at Randwick with 12 horses in it. It's currently the 8th most owned horse with 13% of teams owning that. And I think you're going that way currently, are you, Clinton?
I have. It's currently my 9th or 8th. Yeah, my last horse, my 8th horse, and then I
horse, yeah.
8th horse, because I get confused when you put in your team. The jockey's the 9th horse, but the 9th selection. Yeah, Coolangatta. It's the only thing that worries me. It's a first starter, and so depends what happens with how I juggle a few other things. But at this stage, it's my last horse, and hopefully, even if it wins, who knows? My stable is well enough that could be one of my lowest scores.
Yeah, at 100k, it's nearly just about worth taking that punt. But like you mentioned, it's its first start. I personally don't like. That's the case with a lot of these listed races and handicap races. They're lightly raced horses and can be somewhat unreliable. So I personally don't like to select my horses out of the first couple of races that are, freshly raced horses. So there's not too many options from this list that stables will be considering. Some other names there that are low price in Group 3 races. You've got Victory Moments, Kaboo, Tristana, and Wild Botanica all at 100k in Group 3 races at Randwick in the early races there. They're quite. That's 3 horses from race 2 at Randwick there. Coolangatta, Tristana and Wild Botanica, all 100K. If you're a racing expert, you might know who's going to win that race and you might be able to find some value, but you've gone with Coolangatta. I don't think many people will be picking horses from listed/handicap races. Potentially, I can't even see too many there that would be good options, but Robustas 100K and Cavallo Pampantan, yep, Campenti. Yep, we'll go with that. So
I just think with those races, Blake, unless it's a horse that's paying $1.30, you should probably avoid. Like, I think if you're chasing the points of the SuperCoach, unless it's a really cheap price and it's a hot favourite, you should completely avoid. So that's the way you should look at it.
Yeah, I agree, because Gravina there's at $2.25, but also 350K, so it's really not worth it at that price. Maybe if it was Gravina was 100K, it'd be more popular, but not at 350. So the other aspect of picking your stable, so you pick your 8 horses and 7 of them count. So you also pick your jockey. So this is some tips for who to select this weekend. On top there, we've got James McDonald, who's got 10 rides at Randwick. He's got 5 of the top 3 favourites, with some big rides being Coolangatta, Shared Ambition, Dallison there. Yeah, he's got some big rides, but Jai McNeil should be considered as another alternative there. I'd probably only consider the top 3 out of this list, McDonald, McNeil, and Damien Lane, who have got some big rides. The rest of them I probably wouldn't consider too much. If you're picking a jockey, I'd pick one of those 3. Jai McNeil's got 3 favourites at Flemington, and Away Game was the second favourite. So he's got 4 big rides, 8 rides in total for the whole day. So we're both currently got McDonald, but I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of owners are going to McNeil as well.
I'm looking at the list. Damien Lane's got a couple of rides there that I've selected in my stable, so I want him to go well. But I think one of the big considerations is the total races they're in. So McDonald has 10, and he's the type of jockey that he may be on a mid-priced horse, but he still might find a way to get a second or third. It all adds up. So you can chase winners, but if you have the amount of rides that he has, I'm sure there'll be some placings there as well. So it's a bit of a tough one. I think any of the top 3 are good options, but I'm leaning towards who I think the best jockey in Australia is.
Best jockey in Australia, that's a big call.
McDonald?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my first big call moment.
I'll check some stats on that later. I'm sure I'll back in. Well, go across to my current stable. So this was recorded at, we started about 3 p.m. on Friday. So hopefully there's not too many changes that will impact on our stables. If there is, we'll comment on our social media platforms. But I've paid up big for Very Elegant, who's my captain. So captains obviously get double points. Very Elegant, 500K, $2.30 to win. He's my captain there. The big one, which I paid up money for, I think at over 450K at $1.80 in a Group 2 race. That's a lot to spend. If it was a Group 1 race, it'd be more popularly owned, but that's where I'm taking a bit of a punt there. Incentivized in the same race as Very Elegant, as we've already talked about. Ingratiating, we've already talked about that horse as well, $2.70 and 200K. So all my 8 horses here are from Group 1 and Group 2 races. Elusive Express, we've already mentioned. Sartantes, we've already mentioned in the Group 1, 200K. My roughies, which I'm hoping one of them comes good and the other one won't matter too much because one horse doesn't count. Fangirl at 75K is currently at $14 in a Group 1 race, and Glint of Hope is at 50K in a Group 2 race and at $7.50 to win. So yeah, that's wraps up my stable. As we've already mentioned, we've got different approaches. I've spent up big for Think It Over and found my value in Fangirl and Glint of Hope. So some quite appropriately named horses there.
I think it's worth mentioning the couple of double ups. Obviously, Elusive Express and Glint of Hope in the same race. Fangirl is in the same race as, which one's that one? The same as Think It Over, is that right?
No, it must be Startantes.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you've got a couple of double ups. That's a different way of going about it. All depends on price, but good luck with that. And who knows, if it comes through with the quite a lot, you'll be very happy.
Yeah, if they all those horses come first and second, I'll be very happy. And if one of them doesn't score, that'll be good. James, yeah, as we mentioned, James McDonald is my jockey going into round one. We'll go across now to your stable, and the only horses we've got the same are Very Elegant and Incentivized and Elusive Express.
Yeah, so I think, as we've discussed, I think it's justified to pay up for Very Elegant, and it's an easy captain selection, therefore. And yeah, I think it's pretty safe to assume that you'd like to think they would both finish in the top three. So I've paid up for Very Elegant. Elusive Express, yeah, I like its odds, and it's one of my last horses picked. Riadini in Sydney, yeah, I think it's at its value, it represents good value for a Group 1 race. And as I've said, I've gone with 4 moves ahead instead of Startantes. General Bright I've gone with instead of the horse that you chose, which was Ingratiating. Zayrek is the big one, which I've mentioned already. So it's a Group 1. I try to select a horse in each Group 1. So the big dilemma I'll face before tomorrow morning is if I stay with Zayrek instead of JOCKEYS, or however you pronounce it. And yeah, Coolangatta is the cheap horse in the Group 3, which is a favourite. So I haven't spent a lot of research looking at other stables and seeing what other people are selecting, but I think the way that I work out the value, just looking at it just quite openly, that's the stable I put together for now. And yeah, I'm looking forward to watching them race tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. I like your strategy of having a horse in each Group 1, so I might consider that before tomorrow. If I do happen to go that way, I'd probably have to get rid of Think It Over, but I can't see myself doing it. Probably the best odds for the whole day.
It all comes out of personal preference, and yeah, like that Zayrek race, it's Zayrek, how you pronounce it, but it's the favourite. The favourite's is $6, so it's a really wide open race. So it's a risky strategy. Whereas in that race with Think It Over, there's Think It Over, then 2 horses around the $5 mark in a Group 2. So it's all about the math, and it's a risky way of doing it. But the one change I might make is Zayrek. But besides that, I like the way I'd like to do it is I like watching each Group 1 race, knowing that I've got a horse in it. So I might just stick with it and see what happens.
Yeah, it's a good way to be engaged in sport, so it's good. Yeah, we'll wrap it up there. We haven't got too much to cover in this show, so next week we'll be covering our results, and then we'll be discussing the future round 2. So hopefully it's a good game week for the both of us. As I've already mentioned, make sure you join our league. So I'll get that league code back up again for you now, just in case you need that. So that's 592936. So if you want to join our league, make sure you get onto that before tomorrow so we can chat about it in next week's show as well. So we'll talk about our league and who performed well across round 1. Make sure if you do happen to come across the channel, make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to us, whether it's podcast or YouTube, and leave a comment of how we can improve the show as well, and so we can discuss your teams going forward. Anything else to cover there, Clinton?
No, I think that's covered it well, Blake. I just think it's a great way to enjoy the races without gambling. I think in some way fantasy sports is a great facilitator, and you can enjoy it without. It's a different way to enjoy sports, and it's the same way with racing. So I personally remember the last time there was SuperCoach racing. It was just a great way to be engaged and follow the races without obviously coughing up too much at all. So it depends if you do that with your mates or not. So it's good fun, and I'm looking forward to this 8 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely encourage our listeners to get involved because it's a free-to-play game and prizes each round. So, yeah, good luck with your round 1, Clinton, and anyone in our community that's listening. Good luck with your round 1 teams, and we'll talk to you soon.
Good luck.
Thanks, mate. Bye.